There was once a point in time when Olympic video games were hugely successful. It was a big deal for publishers to get the exclusive Olympic publishing rights. For instance, it might surprise you to know that the first game to ever have the Olympic rights was exclusive to the Sega Master System and Game Gear. Actually, from the first official Olympic game in 1992, the rights jumped developers and publishers with every game. Barcelona and Lilyhammer were published by US Gold, the abhorrent Atlanta game was Black Pearl, Nagano somehow got Konami, then Eidos held onto it for a while, etc., etc. Of course, now in 2018 there hasn't been an official Olympic game without Mario and Sonic since 2012. At the same time, if you didn't have the official license, like Sega didn't in 1998, you just sorta made a game based on generic Olympic events, slapped some national flags on it, and called it good. Winter Heat is a Saturn conversion of an arcade game by the same name, and a pseudo-sequel to Sega's own Decathlete, which is effectively the same game except it's not quite the Summer Olympics instead of not quite the Winter Olympics. This game has 11 events, all of which fall into a pretty similar play mechanic of hammering the C button as many times as you can in order to build up speed, then pressing the B button at the right time to do something else. This is a simplistic mechanic with a history dating back to the original NES track and field, which means that my methods to success are fairly well established. Hitting the button with a pencil or other long object so as to have a better grip, putting a sock over your finger and sliding it between the C button and a neutral adjacent button like the Z button, crotching it, the chin vice, the proto Guitar Hero, the floor method of better anchorage, the sort of hybrid of the pencil and sock methods where you strike the button repeatedly with the shaft of the pencil rather than the point, which really doesn't work great on my Saturn controllers. I'm oversimplifying it a whole lot, actually, but if you're gonna win a Winter Heat, you have to get good at pounding the C button as fast as you can. I do like how this is modified slightly with every event. Speed skiing. Okay, well this one is just pounding the C button as fast as you can. This is the equivalent of the 100-meter dash in track and field, basically. Ski jumping. You hammer C to build up speed, you make sure you get a good angle on the jump, then you make sure you land the jump properly. Pretty easy. Downhill skiing. Okay, this one's a lot different. This is all in your carving and giant slalom ability. There's virtually no C tapping here. Short track. This, I think, is my favorite event in the entire game. There's a combination of C-button hammering with necessary use of the D-pad and positioning yourself for overtaking other people. Like regular short-track racing, anything can happen within the span of a lap, and one mistake changes everything. It combines the well-worn hammering and some sense of strategy to create what's actually a good, replayable, competitive event. Skeleton. You tap the C button to speed up, then sorta hope you don't hit walls for the whole trial. I say hope because I don't think I ever learned to properly control my rider within the course. Slalom. This one's mediocre as well. It could be good having to multitask between building speed and timing you're hitting the poles, but I never felt like I was in control of either of those aspects. Aerial. This is probably the most complex event in the game, and I significantly messed up. I did finally figure out how to start an aerial, but I can't say the same for the landing. Bobsled. It's virtually the exact same as Skeleton, and it suffers from the same control problems. Speed skating. Here's a variation on the C button hammering where one must rhythmically pace themselves on the turns. It gets a little tiring after a while, and it's not as good as the short track event. Snowboard, downhill. This is the same as the downhill skiing event, except one thing on your feet instead of two. Cross country skiing. This is a damn event, though. This is a long one, you gotta pace yourself, and it feels like it actually matters. Making a mistake in pacing early on can ruin you later. It really feels like effort was put into this one. With the two duplicate examples of skeleton and bobsled, and downhill snowboard and downhill skiing, we've got really 9 types of game. I'd say I really enjoy about 3 of them: the short track skating, the cross-country skiing, and the ski snowboard downhill. And this is one of the aspects of the Winter Olympics that interests me. The first Winter Olympiad was in 1924, about 3 years before the invention of television, about 16 before the National Broadcast Corporation would start broadcasting on television, and about 40 years before the first large-scale broadcast of the games on television. Many of these events, save for snowboarding, have been Olympic mainstays since the beginning. And boy does it show that most of these were not brought to the games with the creation of an entertaining television product in mind. Cross-country skiing is one of my favorite events, but man, an hour-and-a-half long relay race does not make for something that sells in primetime on NBC. Were it not a sports game, we'd call Winter Heat a minigame collection. The minigame collection is an incredibly difficult art to get right. Your good minigames are at best short and somewhat memorable, and at worst forgotten after a few seconds. Everything's a little less relevant in a minigame collection, and the negative weighs down what positives you have, thus giving cheap critics like myself a statistic to draw from. I literally only liked 1/3 of the entire game, and even those games I had middling feelings about, like Skeleton or Speed Skiing, are less relevant, so instead of treating them like the middle tier games they are, I can just throw them out with the bad stuff and think nothing more of it. The Olympics themselves are like this. During the first days of the 2016 Olympics in Rio, I was at school in Canada, and I was able to use the CBC's website to watch broadcasts of every event, and what I came to find out was, with this immense amount of power, the ability to watch literally everything, I became incredibly picky, and everything that wasn't what I already knew I liked, women's soccer, handball, basketball, boxing, hockey if I could find it, and that's about it. Those other events fell by the wayside. The Olympics are like a buffet of the very best food, but I've always found myself walking towards my standards instead of trying like a steak tartare or something. Winter heat in this fictional sports buffet Olympiad is like a cruise ship buffet, and your high point is like a hot dog, but a damn good hot dog at that, and your low point is like an unseasoned thing of stale scallop potatoes, and you end up eating granola bars in your room anyway.